Can we do a second take? All right. You guys are now tuned into The Artist Box Poet Takeover here at Jirani Coffeehouse. Hey, I get it together. I get my life together. All right. So we got a dope artist that's getting ready to come to the stage. Shout out to the DJ. I didn't even know you were in the building, but I hope you play my favorite song tonight, Mr. DJ. All right, cool. All right, you ready for your next artist? Let me hear you say yeah. All right, give it up, ladies and gentlemen, for Miss Alexandria.
Hey y'all. Hi. I'm Alexandra. This is my first time kind of reading my poetry and everything out in public. So I have 3 different poems I'm going to read back to back. They each have a different title, but collectively it's called The Testimony. Okay. The first one is called Have You Ever? Have you ever? Have you ever had dinner with your rapist, had to smile, give a hug, and say hello? Have you ever had to pretend that thing that was going over and over in your mind, torturing you, was something you didn't even know? Have you ever held hands during prayer, screaming on the inside, yet staying calm on the out, trying to figure out what life is all about? How could they not see, or how you sacrificed yourself time and time again for the comfort of your own family, muzzled in silence, quieted and hushed, wishing you had razors so your blood could rush, painting the walls and the floors, but you don't because you realize hell is the conclusion that you would come to. Stuck in between the past and the future, wishing there was a way to escape, but knowing that an unapproved departure would leave a bitter taste reminiscent of grape. Have you ever been accused of something you didn't do because your accuser saw something that someone did to you? You see, it's called projection, taking what you've seen, being traumatized by it, and believing that it was your own history, not just something you've seen. So everything in your life starts to become a putrid shade of green, wanting to move on and trying hard to heal, crying, screaming, wishing to forget. But the memories never seem to fade and the problems only seem to mount. At times, you've tried to end it so much you feel that maybe even God has lost count. Have you ever sat across from the face that haunted your dreams? Have you ever been so angry at everyone who holds them in high esteem? Have you imagined you ridding yourself of all the pain by stringing him up and allowing him to drain, making a pool of blood, sweat, and tears, making him scream out all of his fears? Have you traced every mistake and every pain and every heartache back to the moment you lost your soul and leaving at a story still yet to be told? Have you felt those demons pulling you down, chains wrapped around your neck, scraping on the ground, clanging and crashing, banging your head against memories formed with shards of road-colored glasses dipped in hatred and forged in the fires of disgust and disdain? Or the moments where you recall to your mind the little bit of truth you could get out to the ones who pledged their life to you, but realizing the struggle to get out what you have wasn't important and clearly unreverenced in the minds of those who pledged their life to you. Feeling the bottom drop out in your stomach and from your feet at the sight of an embrace, a smile, a handshake, a reminisce, and a praise? Have you longed for the days when your mind was unlocked, unconscious, and asleep? When your spirit was more than humbled, it wasn't meek, it was weak? When the truth was not so self-evident and the issues weren't laced in your blood, when the things you were taught to hold dear held you dear and cared and were there and were real and were true and honestly loved you? Have you ever wondered if he plundered down the same deep cold staircase for another girl? And I do mean girl, between 6s and 9s girl, making you feel all 6s and 7s girl, wondering if she knew or was she still asleep? And was it your job to show her? But how would you know her? They didn't know you. They couldn't see you. So what would you do? The silence of a lamb was reverenced at a point, flashes of the past forcing you to lace every joint. But that lamb was born to be sacrificed, very much unlike you. But it's too late now. You've been cut open, you're burned. So what are you going to do? Dreading holiday after holiday, wishing they didn't exist, swearing in your mind, losing consciousness for a bit, wishing your feet could carry you far, far away from this train wreck of emotion after years of sworn devotion and constant Kool-Aid potions, anger in every motion. But you smile and you get through because that's what you were taught to do. So in my exasperated, melancholy vernacular, I ask you, have you ever had dinner with your rapist? Thank you. The next one is called Soul Tie. The taste of the air on the tip of my tongue as you float by, the aroma of your sweat as it rolls from chin to chest. I am hooked, tethered and suspended, something like leather and strings stitched to my shadow, growing on me next to the hair follicles on my head like wheat and tear. I tried to cut you off, but began to bleed profusely as I cried out in pain. It was your voice that emerged from my throat, committed to carrying out a crime against my own heart, a puppet more often than a lover, my body moving and lifting, breathing according to your brainwaves. I gave you my air because I thought you needed it to breathe. I cut out what was left of my previously abused heart and placed it in your chest because you said she had shattered yours. But it was kept in a little box safely in her back pocket. And although I tried to steal it a few times, my arms were never quite long enough. I sat at the edge of a cliff and screamed at the thought of not being able to run away from my own self and jumped, falling into the arms of one who never had any intentions of catching me. I started to tear you away from my skin and be rid of every poison seeping into my bloodstream, but parts of you ripped like a label and pieces of you are stuck to me and I am forced to wear them. Soaking in liquids of abstinence and prayer, they begin to become paper thin and begin to dissolve. But every now and then my body aches from cuts so deep a man named Thomas would be amazed. I find myself yearning for the very thing that suffocated me, to allow me to breathe, and the reason for my turmoil, to bring me a serenity of biblical proportions. But now, here I am, understanding that your intoxicating love was truly toxic. So I choose to release myself from you because there's only so much of me left. Thank you. This last one is called There Is a Love. There is a love out there somewhere, so strong that when passing over the earth it quakes. A love so pure its pH balance has yet to be charted. A thing so genuine it defies truths, it defines truths, designs fates, and defies all rhyme and reason. It is a cure for a special kind of sickness known to many. It builds nations and is responsible for the creation of past and present tense, the orchestrator of future blood vessels and veins, crafting those skin and bones into something beautiful. the culprit of the scene on Golgotha and the song you sang last Tuesday. There is a force that gives way to no one but everyone all at the same time. The aftermath of time and yet the reason it exists. There is a love so deeply weighted and dripping with hope, clamoring to envelop your soul and restore the tattered remnants of your faith in all things good and true and real and dear and here, right here in the space where you are, this type, no, this magnificently unperplexed and factual, beautiful genre of love is right here, asking, arms up and soul bare, for you to allow it to do its work for you, in you, through you, and for you, because you deserve it and shouldn't accept anything less. Thank you.
If you're ready for your next artist, let me hear you say yeah. Yeah. Everybody say yeah. Yeah. I say yeah. Yeah. I say yeah. 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 I say yeah. 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 Give it up for Keziah, the poet.
How's everybody doing? Everybody's okay. One of the beautiful, terrible parts about being a spoken word artist is that our poems are typically our business. So you can't be like private and like intimate and stuff. It's got to tell your business. So I have to tell my business. This poem is called No Secret. And this is a poem about my weight. All right. She preferred whiskey over beer because it worked faster. This, at least, was the story told to me by her pastor, fully aware of parish vices and devices, and lamented over the struggle to encourage turning to Christ in crisis. But self-medicating is just what life is. Suppressing the pressure to be better and face what eats at us, and to cowardly boast in silent bravado in hopes that those that we have spoken to don't have rose-colored glasses that are broken. I'm no token. Folks around me have spoken in circles around not judging others to some degree. But how can we declare that honestly when we are hardwired for insecurity and jealousy? Even those of us with the purest hearts and the most honest intentions have side-eyed a stranger whose name we didn't know, whose shoes we hadn't walked in, whose story we hadn't been told. I had to catch myself as I watched her life be put up on the shelf, on display. And instead of making assumptions about what she should be doing better, would I be able to stand still in that same glass display case? Like if I were to say that it is no secret that I am overweight, fat, obese, large, big boned. I once called myself the elephant in the room. They thought it was a play on words. I knew it was a play on truth. Life's weights took the form of weight. I began picking up pounds when I was 8, broke fasts, lunched, supped, and stuffed my face with insecurities, abandonment, loneliness, lack of acceptance, unknowingly reckless with this blessing, this life, this body, and it taunts me. Not just as my nutritional mistakes drape from my frame, cellulite straddle with sorrow, heavy breathing laden with regret, but it taunts me. Has me second guessing seconds. Conscious about indentations on couch cushions, glares at chairs in hopes that I can fit, self-conscious about stairs that don't even exist. I hate going shopping because it reminds me of a place I promised myself I wouldn't go. A place called That Big. Whispers of fitness advice from perfect strangers, boom, like 808s, and I have trained my face and the peaks of my smile to behave as wavelengths at least 3 decibels higher, but not nearly as loud as the scream that just wants to jump out from inside her and say, do you know how much I hate flying? And do you know how often I have to? I could easily make my bed of pity in between the sheets of a magazine spread, but not before I address what's inside of me. So instead of demonizing the width of airplane seats, or grumbling frustrations about plus-size sections in department stores, or despising the stride of my hips and thighs as I walk down North Charles Street, the question becomes, why is it that every time I am fearful or nervous, I eat? It's deep. Just like that woman who is drinking for peace and sleep. She cannot be convinced that she does not need it. Funny how what she tried soon became a need to her. And whenever I look in the mirror, the person that I see is her. How am I any different? How am I any better? Why am I out here trying to get it and something inside her won't let her? I pray for her in my letters to God. Please help her get better. Give her what she needs to do what she should for herself. And in your funny way, help her see that the beauty of the battle is just as beautiful as a sunset at sea, settling like the water in her eyes every time she speaks. And God, as you're helping her, please help me. Thank you. Thank you. So this next poem, I grew up just one state away. Some people assume that was Maryland or North Carolina. Tennessee. New Jersey. You don't hear this Southern twang. It's Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee. The buckle of the Bible Belt. All right. Literally, Memphis, on the street that my church was on alone, there were probably 20 churches. The street was like a half mile long. And I'm like, and we never, ever fellowshiped with any of the other churches. And I'm like, but wait, I get the different administrations part, but the same God part. So it's God's children should be able to come together and worship the same God. Okay, maybe it's just me. It's the millennial thinking. But I'm from the buckle of the Bible Belt. And one of the, Memphis is famous for a lot of things. Barbecue, Memphis in May, Bill Street, Elvis, the assassination of Dr. King, and also a lot of racism. So, we've heard about colorism. Those of us within the African-American community heard about colorism, light skin versus dark skin and all that. And so that's a real thing. And growing up in the South, it was a realer thing. So this is a poem that I wrote when I realized that I was still, no matter how chocolate I was, no matter how many times I jumped in the melanin line, I was still fearfully and wonderfully made. So the name of this poem is Skin You Grace. I love the color of my skin. Now, I know I've already started, but let me begin by saying that this has nothing to do with power, Panthers, presidents, or anything else that's black. In fact, it has more to do with the slack I'm having to pick up from the lack of holding my chin up. Bent up and down, back and forth with the figure in the mirror attempting to configure her worth. Played first fiddle with second string to my own lack of self-esteem. Confidence was just a dream, and no wonder. In retrospect, I recollect being made subject to an elementary remnant of a paper bag test. Yes, that's right. 3rd grade schoolyard by the monkey bars. 2 arms. Hold yours up to mine. Let's see who's dark. You are, girl. But what did it prove? Nothing. Just a deeper chasm in my already shattered self-image. Self-grimaced at the thought of being any further set apart from my immature counterparts, taking their taunts as gospel, building as many walls as possible just to deliberate on how to disable the ability of their darts to penetrate. But now, Honey, I'm embracing this melanin like I just bought it with my very last $1.07, or like it's heaven sent. Check the relevance. God, most reverend, reached down from heaven and grabbed a handful of earth, and with that dirt formed the rest of us. And if he makes no preference, best believe that's all the evidence I need. And I've been reaching toward confidence ever since. These mocha, mahogany, milk chocolate rivers of God's own ink flow over this fearfully and wonderfully made body. And I think it's funny that scientists think that they're on the brink of being able to bottle it. So now my motto is embrace the skin you grace. It was traced and placed on your frame with an amount of care so great that the hue is yours exclusively. We never needed the month of January to end to indicate just how beautifully our black graces the palette of Earth's faces so dutifully. So if while running the race you discover a decline in pace and find some space to sit back and recline a taste while everyone and no one's looking, find your face and embrace the skin you grace. Thank you. Thank you. So this last poem, Lord, I have to talk about forgiveness, guys. Sorry. I have to talk about forgiveness. It's easy, right? Uh-oh. I mean, 0 amens. You hear me? No likes. Hashtag excuse you. It is. Forgiveness is super easy. Nobody has problems with forgiving others. What? Come on, guys. It's true. It's very true. It's very true. Oh goodness. So nobody has problems with, like, forgiving their moms or their dads or their uncles or themselves or their pastors or their teachers. Oh boy. So, I don't know about everybody else. Forgiveness is not easy for me. It's getting easier because Jesus loves me and he is patient with us all. It's getting easier, but Lord have mercy. So, without doing too much of more of an introduction, this is forgiveness. And yes, this is about me because, spoken word business, I should have written this a long time ago, but I'm a firm believer in only speaking about what I know. And for the longest time, I knew I was forgiven, but never took the time to learn how to forgive. Pain is fleeting. Inflicting its affliction during a chance meeting of emotion, reaction, and circumstance slightly slows the beating of speeding hearts for a few. Wish they were more forgettable moments. But the resilience of the human spirit is on it, constructed with an ample dose of move-on-ness. Yes. Hurt, however, has a tendency to take up residence. Find the deepest corner of the heart and mind to slowly take precedence of emotions, reactions, and circumstance. You see, pain is something you have. Hurt is something you are. And adding even more fuel to the flame, hurt has a face and a name. Wish they were more forgettable images displaying on the walls of the heart and mind, over and over, of the wrongs performed against what was mine. You see, hurt is a dangerous little thing. It wears a mask of anger and simultaneously one of shame. It is the fuel behind the actions. We can't ascertain the reason for the bad decisions. We can't explain the whistleblower at the beginning of all the games. It will dwindle a grown man's perspective into that of a child. Reduce a wife and mother to the mindset of when she was 5. Much like a spirit, hurt only needs one thing to survive: a host, somewhere to hide, something to feed off of to ensure it thrives. Now, how would I know about forgiveness and how to apply unless I had stared unforgiveness square in the eye? I made excuses for my ease of detachment. Said stuff like, I don't want to keep anybody around that don't want to stay. If they want to leave, I'll show them the way. walls constructed in an attempt to protect me from being hit again. It seemed like I got burned every time I let anyone in. And you can only be hurt so many times and abandoned by kin and friends before you toughen up and develop thick skin. But are we tough enough to look within and not allow a protected heart to let bitterness sink in? It is a battle to accept apologies, then grin. But it is warfare not to receive them and then forgive, as if the offending party isn't fully aware of what they did, and the very least they could do is make an attempt to make amends. There's a reason that few tears fell from my face when I saw him at his end. The obituary spoke highly of his life, but failed to shed light on what he kept dim. I didn't. Perhaps I was fixated on his absence. Had trouble wrapping my mind around how he could ignore the attachment. My eyes, rich skin tone, and smile all match his. Now I'm a grown woman trying to retrieve the pieces so forgiveness can begin patching. At first I was latching onto the false hope that the hurt would disappear like magic, but no sleight of hand or illusion can mask the turnaround and help in the action of asking. Fact is, holding a grudge is like letting someone live rent-free in your head. That's right. But if Jesus paid it all and canceled my debt, cashed the check that Adam wrote and offered new life in its stead, and I profess to be coupled with the carrier of the cross and a pursuant of the perfect purpose of the cost, I'll count the loss. For therein is gain. The release of these grudges brings cease to these refrains, the repetition of positions of hopelessness and abandonment, being a consistent victim and coupling our personalities with the negatives life has handed us. When Jesus went to the cross, he had our grudges in hand with him, bore our sores upon his back to carry to the grave and banish them. When the stone was rolled away, the Messiah had strolled away. But if Mary had ventured deeper into the tomb alongside our sin, she would have seen our hurt thrown away, not because it has no worth, but because his love loves the hurt away. And so today, we have a choice to be content with being okay, or to live a life fulfilled with joy, to walk in Christ's example as we have our whole lives to live through, remembering that our own new life started with, I forgive you. Thank you, guys.